You guys ever take on a project and then as soon as you agree to it, think to yourself, why did I say yes to that? That's what we're working on today. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this video has been a long time in the making, honestly. This was a project I was supposed to do in fall before we shut down for Christmas tree harvest season, and it just never happened. I didn't have time, and also the customer wasn't really ready for them yet, so it wasn't the end of the world. We both decided to push it back to January. So now I'm back into the shop, and this has been waiting for me for 2 months. So you may remember this wood. I think I briefly talked about it in another video where it was kind of sitting in the background. It's a stack of hickory. And it is gonna be a pallet of stair treads. So if you remember back in fall, I did that truckload of long oak beams and cherry paneling and some other stuff for customers building a new house. And I sawed the wood, dried it, did all that work. Well, along with those logs he sent up that I sawed were a couple hickory logs that I wasn't expecting. We hadn't talked about it. So I called him and said, hey, what are we doing with these hickory logs? He asked me if I could make them stair treads. Ugh, cringe. Well, I'm already doing thousands of dollars of work for them. You know, I'm fully invested in the project. The logs were here. So I said, sure. What's a couple stair treads on top of everything else we're doing? Well, for those of you who have never worked with hickory, you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal with that? You've never worked with hickory. It is a real bear to plane. And I was afraid of that from the beginning. That was my main hang up with it. And before I shut down in fall, I ran a few test pieces. And sure enough, the old Northfield there with the straight knives does not like hickory at all. I sharpened those knives as sharp as I could get them, and I'm still getting tear out like this. So in last week's video, if you saw that, which you should have, if you didn't see that, you're not subscribed and you don't have alerts set up, so make sure you subscribe and set up alerts so you don't miss anything. But last week, we talked about that little girl there, that little Powermatic, a baby planer with the helix head. So that's my solution to this problem. So hopefully that will reduce my tear out, because this is the piece that, actually this is the piece that came off of that, and hopefully that should solve our tear out issue. So basically what I have to do here to make a stair tread, these are 11-inch wide treads. I think I need 27 of them, quite a few, and the risers to go along with them. A stair tread is inherently simple. It's a flat board with a bull nose along the front. That is the other thing I'm scared to death about. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I have a couple tricks I can maybe use to be able to put that on without tearing everything to pieces. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. This stuff all needs to be sliced and diced. It's 1.25 inches thick is what I sawed it at. We're making 11-inch deep treads. I'm not gonna do it in one piece. Number one, these aren't quite wide enough. This is 11-inch rough sawn, so it's not gonna give us 11-inch finished. And I don't like to make those big one-piece treads like that, especially with wood like hickory. I just get nervous over time. It could cup or twist. Hickory tends to have a mind of its own. So I'm gonna cut everything and glue them up and make 2-piece treads. And honestly, I think it's gonna look really neat. One of the downsides to this hickory, now of course this stuff on top is gonna make a liar out of me because this has a ton of character. But by and large, this stack of hickory when I sawed it, didn't have a huge amount of character like hickory's known for. So I'm gonna try to kind of mix and match some of this stuff and dress these treads up a little bit. So, I mean, we can stand here and talk about it all day, but really, when it comes down to it, I put this off for 2 months. We just got to dive in and get rolling here. So I'm going to start slicing and dicing this. They're And let me look at my notes here. 3 foot 4 inch and 3 foot treads, 2 different size treads. So they're not real wide treads, they're only 3 foot treads. So I'm gonna start by sectioning these a little bit longer than the finished dimension. So we're not working with an 8 foot board, trying to glue up 8 foot. That doesn't make any sense. So we're just gonna slice them, glue up our blanks, plane them, and well, you'll just see as we go. So let's get to cutting. Yes, I already know what you're thinking. Well, you bought that little planer while you're running them through the north field. Well, because I'm rough planing here. These are going to get glued up and planed again. One thing I didn't say in last week's video about these little planers, they don't feed worth a darn. When you have a big planer with power bottom rollers and it'll just suck the wood through, it's very hard to go back to these little planers that you basically have to fight the wood through. Yes, I know you should lube the bed and all that stuff, I do that. But the bottom line is they just, especially with a hardwood, they don't feed to the standard I'm used to. So it doesn't really matter what the finish quality is. In fact, you'll see most of this is still kind of skip planed because this is going to go through the planer once it's glued up. I just want to clean them up. What you saw there was my basic general squaring procedure you do for any kind of furniture. Join the face, clean up your edges, cut them to width, plane them, basically just trying to get square flat boards. So now, this is actually one of the fun parts of it. I get to play matchmaker. So I get to look at all these pieces here, and like these two here, those are a pretty nice match. They both have this bird peck. I wouldn't do one with bird peck and one without because that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. You're trying to kind of blend them, make them look good, try to match grains and colors just to give you the best visual appearance. So that's basically what I'll do, and then I'll mark them with an X so I know my joint, and I'll number all these because I got to take them next door to my heated shop where I actually do the glue ups. So I'm going to work my way through this, and probably what happens, most of these, they're going to get hit on the jointer on these edges again, so they make a nice tight joint. I'll hoof everything over there. That's the other thing I didn't mention. If you've never worked with hickory, it is heavy. It's almost like working with steel. When you're used to pine or poplar, I mean, it'll wake you up. It's a workout. So I'm going to hoof all this stuff over there and glue up some blanks. So we're going to kind of pretend we're on one of those cooking shows where they prep the food, then they reach in the oven, pull out the finished casserole. Yeah, I had glued up a set of these this morning before I picked up the camera. So you can kind of see what they look like. Now, of course, they're rough and they got to run through the planer, but I'll give you a better idea what I try to do here. You can see here I had heartwood on two edges, sapwood on two edges, so I kind of put the heartwood together. And here I did the opposite, kind of put the sapwood together, kind of running through the center. So it just gives it a kind of neat look. So I have to pop the clamps on these. These all have to go back over to the planer shop, bringing the new ones over, rinse and repeat. I got to do 27 of these, and I'm gluing up 5 at a time. So I can do 3 glue ups a day, morning, lunch, and at the end of the day. So it's a multi-day process to get all these done. And what I like to do, I'm going to glue everything up first and plane them all at the same time, because I like to be able to just plane them as a batch, run them all through at the same time so everything's exactly the same thickness. In the meantime, while glue's drying here, this place needs to be cleaned up again. It's getting a little messy. So I'll have no shortage of things to do, and well, it'll be a couple days, but it'll feel like a second to you guys. Well, we're back. A few days later, all the wood is glued up. That's in the heated shop. I am in the 21-degree shop. Lucky me. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm recording on my phone, which I never do, but I'm an idiot. I left my memory card at home, so my camera does me no good. So the rest of this video I'm going to have to do with my phone, which I hate. So bear with me. I'm going to do the best I can here. But before I can bring that wood over and start planing it, I decided we got to replace these cutter heads. If you watched the last video, you know I ran that test piece through when I introduced this planer, and there were some lines on the boards and some burn marks. Well, that's a sure sign that your planer, your cutter heads need to be turned. So I took a closer inspection at this, and these are all original. These have never been turned. And I can tell because the other faces are still clean. So that means there's really not that much wear on this machine, which is good for me, except now it's time to do a little bit of maintenance. So this is not a job you really want to do when it's 21 degrees out. You don't want to do much when it's 21 degrees out, but I do have my little infrared heater here, which is just casting a nice heat over this cutter head. So that's going to make my life much easier. I don't know about you guys, but hands and feet are what get me. As long as I can keep my hands and feet warm, I'm usually good. Nothing else really bothers me. So this won't be terrible with that little heater here. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can take each cutter individual and like unscrew it, turn it, put it back in, torque it down. The way I like to do it actually though is to take the whole row off, clean it up, put them all back in, turn 90 degrees, and then tighten them all, torque them down. So you can take them out with the impact wrench. You can't put them back in because the carbide is brittle and you'll break it. So what I do is I get it started and then I have to torque it down with the torque wrench. 45 inch-pounds is what this particular machine calls for. So that's what we're gonna do. It's a tedious job. It's not really a fun job, but you know, the amount I'm gonna use this planer, if I do it now, it's gonna last me a long time. So bear with me. I'm recording on the phone. I'm gonna do the best job I can for you. I'm gonna get you set up and we're gonna just knock this out. So I'm all wrapped up. That wasn't too bad. About 40 minutes. It's a much smaller planer than the last Helix head I had, so it's not near as bad a job.
I will say, for the one person out there that was wondering, because I try to give you useless information on every video, I timed myself doing 2 rows. 1 row I did where, like you saw, I took everything off, put everything back on. The 2nd row, I just did each one individual, took it out, put it right back. And it is actually faster to do each one individual. I was surprised. I was about a minute quicker doing them all independent. So there you go. If you own one of these and time is money, like it seems to be here, that's the quicker way to do it. Do them all. Don't take them all off and put them back on. So I'm going to get this buttoned up, lubed up, which brings me to a question I have for you guys. Maybe somebody can help me out. I put this out in a short, and as of yet, I have to get any decent answers. I, for years, used Johnson paste wax on all the beds of my machines, and I liked it. It worked good. It was easy. They stopped making that. So I bought a can of Minwax paste wax. I don't like it. It's too hard. It doesn't seem to do as good a job. So my question is, what are you guys using on the beds of your machines to keep them lubed up, nice, keep rust off of them, all that stuff? So let me know in the comments what you're using and what you like. So I'm going to get this buttoned up, and I'm going to hoof those 27 stair treads in here because they're over in the other shop. Luckily, it stopped snowing, it looks like. And we'll get planing. So this little baby planer did a great job. I am actually shocked. It with those sharp knives and a lubed up bed, it fed really nice. Took me a few more passes than I'm used to with the big planer, but I have to keep reminding myself this particular job is a game of finesse, not brute force. So I gladly make those extra passes. And the end result, these things are beautiful. Really nice, super smooth finish. I probably won't even need to run these through the sander. They came out that nice, no lines, nothing. So the little secret I did here, these are going to finish at 11 inches. I glued everything up 12 inches plus. I have to take them over to the shaper there and run a bullnose on the edge, just rounding over the edge. So if I get tear out when I'm running these edges, if a little piece blows out or whatever, I have a whole inch to work with. So I'll be able to run it again or flip it, run the other side. And then when they're run, I will trim them to final width and then trim them to final length, because I also left them about 8 inches longer than they need to be, just to clean up any snipe and just make my life easier. So that's the next step. I have that set up, and we'll go over there. We'll start bullnosing this, and just about ready to wrap that up. I mean, this is really nice stuff here. I'm thrilled. I love hickory. As much of a bear as it is to work with, I love it. Well, don't mind my respirator face, but I got it all done. Came out pretty good overall. I'm happy with it. Of course, you know, the camera makes it look easy, but it was quite a chore running all those bull noses. I had quite a few that splintered out and had blowouts, and I had to rerun them or run the other edge and then rip it clean and trim it up. And overall, though, I'm super happy. It all looks really nice. A lot of character in this stuff. I did all the risers too, and I didn't show you that because honestly, they're just square boards. Nothing fancy there, just planed up and cut to dimension. So I got two separate sizes of treads, two separate sizes of risers. It's all on a pallet. I'm gonna shrink wrap it and send it down the road. So overall, I'm thrilled with how this came out. I was nervous about it at the start. You have to push yourself. This is how I built this business, is just by pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. Even though I've done this kind of thing before, it's been a while, and I had to tool up accordingly and get myself set up for it. But you relearn old tricks. So I'm really thrilled with how it came out, despite the challenge of working with Hickory. Probably remember the rough saw in there. I still have some of that left over that's going to go back to the customer, but hopefully they're thrilled with this. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot now that's just sitting on this pallet, but there's quite a few hours into this between all the glue up and machining and getting it just right and dialed in. So if you like the video, subscribe, like, do all that stuff. And I'm going to be back next week with something totally different. I don't know what we're talking about yet, but we're going to be out of the shop doing something 100% different than this. So that's the beauty of this channel, is all the variety we get. So, oh yeah, and I'll have my camera back because I don't know how people film on the phone, but it's not for me. I did my best. Hopefully it doesn't look horrible. Catch you next week.